on Dixons' greatest ever Christmas deal. Dixons deals. We guarantee you can't buy better.
If you're a 70s, 80s or 90s kid, then like me, I'm sure you remember how exciting it was to visit Dixons, the go-to electronics store if you desperately wanted a new boombox, record player, electronic game, or even one of those new 8-bit home computers. And when we look back now at old adverts and catalogues, those vintage tech products are some of the most nostalgia-inducing items we could ever hope to come across. I'm RetroSteveUK, and in the spirit of this quest for techno nostalgia, we're going to be taking a look page by page at what's inside this 1984 edition of the Dixons Christmas Catalogue. And as we go along, I'll be using my digital crayons to draw a circle around one item from each page that I'd have chosen to go under my tree back in Christmas 1984. We'll also be sharing your memories in the featured comments section, and I'll stick in a couple of old Dixons tech adverts at the end for good measure. Of course, if you disagree with my favourites, you're very welcome to go ahead and put me right in the comments. And remember, if you want to skip around to different parts of the catalogue, you can use the chapter markers that I've placed along the video timeline. So let's get our time travel goggles on now and take a technological trip through this paper portal back to Christmas 1984. There's a total of 32 pages in this catalogue, starting with the front cover, and this really is a feast for the eyes, setting the mood for all the techno goodies still to come inside the catalogue. We get a mixture of TVs, videos, Hi-Fis and Walkmans, cameras, calculators, watches, electronic games and home computers, as well as some slightly less exciting kitchen and home appliances, including a microwave and a push-button telephone. I'm trying to waffle on a little bit here so you can get a decent look at all the goodies, but of course you can pause the video for a closer look if you need to, so I'll crack on now with page 2 and 3. Which begins on the left here with an introduction to the catalogue promising unbeatable Christmas prices, details of a Christmas gift exchange scheme for unwanted presents, although that excludes handheld and video games. They're offering a 5-year extended guarantee for a small fee, £750 instant shop credit with a Dixons charge card, a mail order service which involves sending a letter by post containing a cheque or credit card number, and some legal small print there just below the picture of the wrapped presents and above the Dixons shop graphic along the bottom of the page. Page 3 on the right kicks off with some video recorders, mostly VHS, but there is one Betamax machine down there in the bottom left, the Sanyo VTC 5150 at $249.99. I do want to point out as well that Seisho VR705 in the top left. Note the janky looking remote control with 4 buttons on it for pause and play, fast forward, rewind and stop, and they've done a bang up job there on trying to visually hide the fact that this remote was physically attached to the video recorder by a cable. My top choice from these pages obviously has to be a video recorder, and I'm going to choose that Sanyo Beta machine, just because it reminds me of the second-hand Betamax that my mum bought for me for my bedroom back when I was about 16. And of course we all know that Betamax had a better picture quality than VHS, even though VHS was the eventual winner of the home video format war. More VHS videos over the page on the left here from Sharp, Panasonic and Hitachi, but over on the right page the main event is that JVC GRC1 home video camera. It's a chunky beast with a big old lens, microphone and electronic viewfinder, although Dixons are describing it here as lightweight and portable. You can also play back your recordings directly to a TV as demonstrated by Doc Brown in Back to the Future, as this was the exact model of camera that was used by Doc and Marty in the 1985 movie. Under that, Panasonic's home video camera is available in a £1,400 bundle with some extra editing equipment. There's a £1,300 Olympus video camera bundle to the right of that, although that's missing a picture strangely, and of course various options for buying blank videotapes in the bottom left there, at an average price of around £4.80 per cassette. My pick from these 2 pages, without a doubt, is that chunky JVC home video camera. I desperately wanted a video camera back in the 80s, but never had one because they were just so insanely expensive, and there's no way my family could have afforded something like that back then. So if it had turned up under my Christmas tree, I would have been ecstatic, and I love the idea that a 10-year-old me might have had ideas about becoming a budding filmmaker back in 1984. TVs over on pages 6 and 7, a selection of full-size sets, full-size of course back then being about 20 to 22 inches as opposed to the smaller 14-inch portable TVs. We got sets from Seisho, which is Dixons' own brand, Hitachi, Grundig and Toshiba, and this is 1984 so there's not a single flat screen in sight. I was tempted to go for that Seisho TV and video combo at the bottom of the left page there, which comes with a free Christmas food hamper, a frankly perfect gift for the whole family at Christmas, but ultimately I'm more interested in something I could have enjoyed as part of my own bedroom setup. So I'm going to go for the Toshiba in the bottom right, which has the latest FST, flatter square tube, and a 2-way 4-speaker stereo sound system with bass and treble controls. I've always been a sucker for sound quality, so there's no competition on these pages against this bad boy. Portables over on the next page, and let's be realistic, if you were lucky enough to have a TV set in your bedroom, these 14-inch models would have been what your mum and dad would have opted for, and they're pretty much exactly the right size for a teenage bedroom. We get portables here starting at the top left from Seisho, Hitachi, Ferguson and Philips, plus a selection of smaller, more affordable black and white screen options in the box there, with some freestanding TV aerials featured under that, plus a couple of bigger full-size TVs over on the right page in the Dixons Seisho range. Now the closest here to what I had originally is that tiny little 5-inch black and white TV radio cassette unit from Seisho on the left page there, just above the aerials. When I first got my ZX Spectrum, my mum bought me a second-hand TV very similar to that so I could use my computer whenever the living room telly wasn't available. Although I have nostalgia for that thing, my choice now would have to be the stylish-looking Hitachi 14-inch colour portable with a loop aerial and illuminated push-button channel indicators. It's a really good price, and I can imagine that looking amazing on my bedroom desk alongside my computer, and sitting in bed at night as well, watching my personal choice of TV programmes from BBC 1 and 2, ITV and the recently introduced Channel 4. Oh my goodness, this page is oozing with nostalgia, although I'm saying that as a lifelong computer nerd, so you may beg to differ. I've already mentioned my Sinclair ZX Spectrum, which I got in 1983, and that beautiful iconic looking rubber keyboard is sitting on the right hand page there at £129.99, complete with a free 6-game software pack, some of which I still have now, and a selection of optional add-ons including a Sinclair microdrive plus joystick and printer interfaces. In the interest of not reigniting the which is best playground wars, I'll move on from the specky, and starting at the top left we get a Commodore 64, Commodore C16, a BBC B, an Amstrad CPC 464, an Acorn Electron, which was the cheaper cut-down version of the BBC B, some MSX computers from Sony, Toshiba and Sanyo, which are unpictured, and a smashing-looking Seisho cassette data recorder, as well as an unpictured Spectra Video joystick and Amstrad printer. So what would I choose now? Well, my heart says ZX Spectrum, as I sank so many hours over the years gaming and programming on that thing. But with a modern eye and in hindsight, I actually think the Amstrad CPC was the best and most capable machine, although it did suffer at the time from a games library mostly made up of inferior Spectrum ports and shovelware. When I look at what the machine is actually capable of, it's now the computer I wish I'd had back then. Its only real handicap was that terrible green screen monitor it came with that put the price up and out of the reach of most families, and the colour screen option was even more expensive. It really baffles me why Amstrad didn't just allow us to connect it to a normal TV like Sinclair and Commodore did. I mean, look at those prices, faced in 1984 with a price tag at Christmas of either £130 or £350. For a parent, it really would have been a no-brainer decision. More home computer goodies over on pages 12 and 13. Starting again in the top left, we have a Commodore 64 business outfit with a load of extras, a Commodore Plus 4 with extended basic and 4 built-in software programs for business management, the new Sinclair QL computer from good old Sir Clive, God rest his soul, a selection of printers, then over on the right page, a Sanyo PC and monitor, including a bundle of business software, and an Apricot F1 PC. These last two appear to be early versions of what we've since come to know as IBM PC-compatible computers, operating on MS-DOS, which is what we used on PCs before Microsoft Windows came along. The red box in the bottom left of the right page there details Dixons in-shop computer demonstrations, plus some information about their low price guarantee. I should also point out that the inclusion of the Sinclair QL being described as new gives the only decent clue in this catalogue as to the year of publication. The QL was properly released to the public in the mid to latter half of 1984, so this being new at Christmas means it must have been a 1984 catalogue. On the subject of the QL, this is in fact the item I'm going to choose from these pages. I know in hindsight they absolutely bombed in the marketplace, but as I was stoked at the time about a possible follow-up to the Sinclair Spectrum, if I could have afforded the £399, a Sinclair QL would definitely have ended up on my bedroom desk. Cameras, and obviously there are no digital cameras here as they didn't become widely available until the 1990s, but we do have a decent selection of professional looking analog 35mm film cameras from Olympus, Miranda, Minolta, Chinon, Canon, Praktica and Pentax, plus some lens, flash gun, tripod and carry bag accessories in the red box on the bottom right page. These are all way out of my range as I was only ever interested in the mass consumer point and click cameras like the 110 film and disc film cameras. If I'm pressed to make a choice here now though, I'd go for one of the tripods as that's something I can't do without these days. But back then, well, if I could have afforded it, I'd have gone for the Pentax Program A, which has 4 preset modes to choose from, as well as looking like the most compact and stylish option for my tastes. I probably would have enjoyed using that for holiday snaps and such, and who knows, it's possible a camera like that might have sparked an interest in photography as a hobby. More cameras, and these are more like the type of thing I might have owned in 1984. They're all 35mm compact cameras, so simpler to use than the SLRs on the previous page, but still quite a faff to load film into compared to the simpler cartridge-based film loading of the 110s and disc cameras that I've already mentioned. More of the same brands here, with the addition of a Nikon in the bottom left page, plus some binoculars and telescopes to choose from on the far right column as well. And this is where I'd take my pick from on this page. My dad always had binoculars in the house, as that seemed to be one of his things, but I always relished the idea of a telescope when I was younger so that I could try out a bit of stargazing, and it's something I never owned, so for that reason I'm going for the Prinz Concorde 450 telescope. As of the three on this page, this is the one with the highest magnification, going up to 100 times as opposed to the 45 and 60 times maximum of the other two. And those simpler cameras I mentioned, the 110 film and disc cameras, are featured here on page 18. I had a few of these over the years, and my most memorable was that exact Dixons model of disc camera there at the top right corner of this left page, going for $9.99. These disc cameras were dirt cheap and used a circular flat cartridge of film that just plugged straight into a flap on the back of the camera. The 110 cameras were similarly easy to operate, with a long thin film cartridge that slotted neatly into a back panel, although I will admit the photo quality on these was nowhere near as good as a proper 35mm camera, but for the price they were ideal for basic holiday snaps. The classic Polaroid instant camera also makes an appearance there too, along with a selection of films for different camera types in the yellow column. There are some details at the bottom of the page about Dixons' photo film developing service, and I'm sure you remember what it was like back then, having to hand in or send off your films, then wait for them to be developed and returned to you before you even got a single glimpse of the photos you'd taken. Nostalgic, yes, but I wouldn't want to go back to that now. Over on page 19 on the right, some car stereos and speakers, and I'd have been much too young to be interested in those, but it's something that dads would have probably been drooling over, with car radio cassette units and speakers from Harrier, Seisho, Sanyo, Pioneer and Sharp. From this two-page spread, my choice has to be the same camera I had when I was 10, the Dixons Sharpshooter disc camera, only now I choose the version with the built-in flash, as the one I had in the picture there needed external disposable single-use flash cubes that fitted to the top, so you had to be really careful about when you chose to use the flash. And as always, it was hit and miss with these things. You just took the photo and hoped it would come out well after receiving your snaps pack from the shop. Everyone loves a Walkman, right? Although technically it was only the Sony product that was called Walkman, everything else was officially called a personal stereo. We still just used to refer to them all as Walkmans though. There are units here from Seisho, obviously, Hitachi, Sanyo, Sharp and of course the Sony Walkman itself, shown there at the bottom middle of the left-hand page. The red Sanyo model next to that comes with an exciting looking pair of stereo speakers too, but as anyone who ever owned a pair of those will tell you, you'd probably get better sound quality from 2 tin cans and a piece of string. We also have some micro cassette recorders in the far bottom right, which were generally used as vocal dictation machines as the sound quality was always a bit awful. And look at that selection of blank cassettes to the left of those. I've got to say, I'm a bit of a cassette freak, so seeing these sealed blank tapes in pristine condition gives me feelings I don't really want to talk about, so I'll just move on and mention the Allsop cassette head cleaner that's also being sold there. And yes, I still have one of those too, which gets semi-regular use on my 1990s Technics RS TR474 cassette deck, which is still hanging on in there. I've also got to mention that curious Dixons branded cassette album of music available for $3.99, just under the blank tapes. It looks like they probably struck some kind of deal back then with CBS Music to make that. So as a self-confessed cassette freak, I'm going to choose literally the best Walkman I can see on this page, which is the Sharp JC7G Ultra Slim Personal Stereo Cassette Player with a 4-band graphic equalizer, Dolby noise reduction, auto reverse feature and a detachable FM/AM radio tuner pack. Absolute audio bliss. And we're getting into boomboxes now, which is kind of the retro way to describe these portable hi-fis, although from my memory it was Ghettoblasters we used to call them. We got a decent range here, from the cheapest, most basic Seisho model through to that beast on the right there from Panasonic with a big old turntable on the top, which doesn't look portable at all really. These portable hi-fis generally gave you access to a radio and a cassette player, with some even having twin decks so you could record from one cassette tape to another, which was referred to as dubbing. And I used to make good use of that feature by making my own albums and mixtapes, and of course you could also use a twin deck to copy computer games on cassette, but we don't really talk about that, do we? In addition to the Ghettoblasters in the far bottom right, there's a couple of more basic portable radios and bedside clock radios, and the item I'm going to pick from these pages has to be a twin deck for starters, so I'm going to go for the Hitachi TRK55. It's the most stylish looking unit here for me. It's a decent brand, the radio and cassette functions are fully featured, and it's just about the right size for porting around or leaving in place in your bedroom. Musicians rejoice, as Dixons has you covered with a range of toys that will help you think you're learning to play the piano. In all seriousness though, one of these little toy keyboards was always great fun to receive on Christmas morning, especially after watching Top of the Pops and daydreaming about becoming a pop star. These are a decent way for kids to get a feel for music though, and it wouldn't surprise me if a lot of professional musicians out there today got their start at age 10 with a Casio VO1 beginner's keyboard. If you really want to get serious with your recording career, you could also add one of those 2.5 watt powered speakers, a pair of headphones, and a microphone for only £1.99. Proper home hi-fis get started off here on page 25, and those will continue on to the next page as well, but sticking with this page, we have some achingly nostalgic looking music centres and hi-fi units, some complete with their own cabinets where you can store your records, perfect for a living room or a bedroom. So from these two pages I'm split between wanting a new hi-fi or getting one of those super fun keyboards. But as the rule here is one item per page, I'm going to have to tear myself away from the hi-fis and go for the £199 Casio stereo keyboard with detachable speakers. Who could resist those 20 instrument sounds, 12 preset drum rhythms, and of course those amazing wah effects. Ooh, gimme. As promised, more home hi-fi units aiming more perhaps at the family living room market, or maybe even dad's study if he's feeling a bit flush. And over both pages we get a choice of relatively high-end hi-fis, some with and some without the storage furniture. Fisher, Hitachi, Technics, Sanyo and Pioneer are all represented on the left, with Akai, Aiwa and Fisher again represented on the right. I'm going to be choosing something for the living room this time, although there's nothing here that comes close to the magnificence of the awesome hi-fi we had in our house back then. It was a beast of a unit and took up half of one wall at the end of the dining area. These though are a bit more reasonable, so I'm going to pick the one that reminds me the most of that old beast that we had, the Fisher unit at the top left. It's got a record player, tape deck, radio, and a 5-band graphic equalizer. It has a gorgeous brushed metallic finish, and those massive speakers that only put out 20 watts are completely redonkulous. I love it. Boring kitchen stuff, or at least it would have been when I was 10 anyway. Microwaves, home telephones, and a couple of answering machines. I think we still had an old rotary dial telephone back in '84, but push button phones were becoming more common at that point. I still actually own one of those original rotary phones, even though it won't work on modern phone networks anymore. Just listen to this, it'll take you right back. Yeah, so microwaves. It was something our neighbours had at the time, but we didn't until years later, and I can remember being really jealous of the microwave burgers they were able to cook in there, which came out tasting like a McDonald's. Actually, that doesn't say a lot for McDonald's really, does it? Still, not exactly sport for choice here, so I'm going to choose the Sanyo answering machine there on the right-hand side. We never had an answer phone back then, and it was something I always wanted to play around with at that age, so it's got to be that really. Watches are always fairly interesting. I always remember flicking through the Argos catalogue, skipping past the jewellery and pausing at the watches on the way to the toys and games. Calculator watches in particular were very exciting, and I must have had one of those at some point, but I can't really remember. I did get a watch with a little AM radio built into it though one Christmas. Cheers, Mum. The calculator watch does make an appearance here near the bottom right of the left page, amongst a lovely collection of other fairly affordable wristwatches, plus a few travel alarm clocks in the bottom left. Things start to get much more exciting on page 31, however, as we get our only example in this catalogue of handheld electronic games, almost hidden amongst the calculators. That big red Monty Scrabble game looks like a calculator until you notice the alphabetic keyboard. Then down under that there's an electronic chess computer game, Astro Blaster, that red tabletop game, Pac-Man 2, the flat black and blue one, and Super Space Invader 2, the black and silver one. No sign of any Tomitronics, Grandstand machines or Game & Watches here though, which were all heavily featured at the time in the Argos catalogue, although there is a Game & Watch on the cover of this Dixons catalogue, so I get the feeling they might have been struggling for space in this 32-page supplement. I want to mention the calculators too, as there's one here that gives me the feels, the card calculator, pictured here with an Access credit card in its wallet. These were super interesting at the time, just the idea of a really thin calculator the size of a credit card that would fit into a wallet, quite a novelty. So what's it going to be? There's not a lot on the back page after this, so I feel like I want to make the most of it. So in the interest of not wanting it to end, I'm going to cheat and pick 2 items. I definitely want that calculator watch, particularly as it's very similar to the one Marty McFly wore in Back to the Future. This is the Casio CA50, whereas Marty wore a CA53. There's not a lot to tell them apart, really. I also want to give an honourable mention to the metallic Casio Chrono alarm watch in the top right of the left page. These are real workhorses, and you can still get exactly that model now, and it's priced today in Argos for only $16.99. It's one of those rare examples of a retro item that's actually still current technology. My second choice is the card calculator because I'd still find that quite handy even now. There are times I've needed a calculator out and about and I've grabbed my phone, unlocked the screen, tried to locate the calculator app, loaded it in, then started doing the calculation on the touchscreen. Bearing all that in mind, there's something about just grabbing a pocket-sized device that serves exactly the purpose you need and having real tactile buttons to press. It's just satisfying, and I'd love to be able to pull that out in a shop or cafe or something. Onto the final page then, and the back of the catalogue, as I've already alluded to, is just a feature of two of the items already shown inside the catalogue on pages 6 and 9. The Seisho TV and video package with the free Christmas hamper, and the Seisho TV and video with the free cabinet. I'm guessing these were the two deals that they really thought would catch the attention of anyone just casually picking up the booklet. As there's nothing new here to pick from, I'm going to instead pick something I'd like from the hamper. Some of the fine detail is a bit challenging, but there's a bottle of Liebfraumilchwein, a plum pudding, a tin of cocktail sausages, Royal Game soup and fruit cocktail, a packet and a jar of mincemeat, some Kyla orange marmalade, a tin of Danish butter cookies, and a box of Meltis Newberry fruit jellies. I'm hugely tempted to the Danish butter cookies because they're just so sweet and creamy and uncommonly good. But the real nostalgia bait for me here is the jellies. It's something my grandma loved, and it's something we consequently had in every Christmas in our household. So today I still tried to buy some in for Christmas, and this is the exact box we picked up from a garden centre this year. Granted, they're not quite exactly the same as that classic brand in the Dixons hamper, but they're pretty close, so that satisfies one of my Christmas nostalgia needs. And that, sadly, is your lot for this Dixons Unbeatable Christmas Deals 1984 catalogue. I reached out through social media to ask if any of you wanted to share your Dixons or any vintage tech memories in this video. Here's what a few of you had to say. Over on Instagram, John McLennan at Drams and Dreams used to love going into Dixons in the Hale Lees shopping centre in Aylesbury. I actually know John from a previous job I had, and the Aylesbury Dixons was my branch as well, so we pretty much share the same memories of looking around at all the cool tech and being able to physically touch and interact with it before buying, which is something that's sorely missing from the modern online shopping experience. From my YouTube community posts, Alan Pryor's parents weren't rich enough to buy presents from Dixons, but that hasn't dampened his enthusiasm for that twin-deck boombox on the front cover. Coincidentally, that particular one is the Hitachi that I picked out on page 22, so I guess we must have similar tastes. Sadly, my best hope for a boombox back in my childhood was a cheap Dixons own brand model, but I loved my Seisho T404 twin-deck cassette radio, and it was the main source of music for me for many years from childhood to teens. Jace Evo X remembers Dixons very well, with memories of looking through the window of his local shop for ages at all the amazing products. 84 would probably have been the year he was trying to convince his parents that he needed a Commodore 64, to do homework of course, and his dad would have been stocking up on blank Scotch VHS tapes to record all the Christmas movies. Movie Vibe Archive always remembers the Dixons staff wearing suits for some weird reason, and also has particular memories of the cordless phone pictured on the cover. I think I remember those suits too, and I'm guessing it was probably just the standard shop uniform they had to wear, which always came across as really smart and professional. Levi McGlinchey only remembers buying one item from their tiny Dixon shop, and that was the family's first ever digital camera, probably around the late 90s or early 2000s. Levi recalls being a small child and admiring the wall-to-wall glass cabinets full of cameras. It seems though that the more successful electronic shop in their close-knit town was a family-run store called Peter Tyson's, which outlived the Dixons after that had shut down somewhere in the region of 2002. Gary Weston at GJ Westonable's dad bought him a Dragon 64 computer from Dixons around that time, but it broke on Christmas morning after about 20 minutes and they couldn't return it until the new year. After some toing and froing with the shop, they ended up returning it, and they got a BBC B computer the next Christmas after his dad refused to get him a Commodore 64. I'm guessing that may have had something to do with the BBC being perceived more as an educational computer than a games machine. Dave Richards, also known as Fuzzy 80s on Blue Sky Social, thinks tech gifts for him and his sister in Christmas '84 would have been games for their ZX Spectrum, plus a couple of handheld electronic Nintendo games. Dave offered to share a photo of his childhood collection over on his Blue Sky account, and as promised, here it is in all its retro glory, and there are some real proper classics in there. GT Retro World made a video of his own of a 1980s Dixons Christmas brochure, which you can watch for yourself by following the link that I've placed in the description. It's a similar sort of thing, but with a bit of a CB radio slant, as GT has a particular interest in that type of thing. Over on my Facebook page, James Broad remembers having an inflatable radio-controlled robot that came from a Tandy electronics shop, which might have been either this or something similar. It had a single control button, so there wasn't much functionality, but he loved it anyway. And this comment triggered a memory for me of a school friend who had one. And confession time, to my shame, I obsessed over it so much I kind of forgot he was there, and his parents got a little bit cross with me and sent me home. I'm kind of glad I grew out of that type of behaviour, thankfully. And finally, Paul Pablo Hind was given a Hitachi personal cassette radio for Christmas from Dixons, which took 4 AA batteries. He really loved it, and it lasted a good few years, until the batteries leaked. They were Flying Bomb brand batteries apparently, and after that it was goosed. As you can see in my reply, I brought up that beloved Seisho twin deck that I mentioned earlier in the Boombox comment, and found myself reminiscing about taping the top 40 songs off the radio on a Sunday afternoon, making mixtapes, and backing up my Spectrum games. Definitely a bit naughty, but very nice memories. If you found yourself yearning for any of the old tech featured in this video, or if it's triggered any memories you'd like to share, post them in the comments and I'll be happy to have a chat with you. And if you want to be featured in a future retrospectives video, follow me on my various social media platforms where I'll be asking for your comments whenever I'm working on something new. You'll find all the links in the video description. We're going to finish up now with those Dixons adverts that I mentioned, and there's a couple of Christmas ones in there too. But first I'd like to thank everyone who submitted their comments, to thank you for liking and subscribing, and of course to wish you all a very merry retrospectives Christmas.
Come in on Dixons' greatest ever Christmas deals. Like this superb 14-inch Seisho colour TV, only $159.99. This Commodore computer starter pack with data coder and software now under £50. Save £50 on this Fisher Twin Deck MIDI HiFi with graphic equalizer. Save £150 on this JVC portable video camera recorder. Dixons deals. We guarantee you can't buy better. You can't beat Dixons deals. Interest-free credit on this Philips VHS video with free cabinet. Save £30 on this fabulous Fisher MIDI HiFi with twin cassette deck. 10 free tapes with this Seisho portable HiFi under £45. Get the Sinclair Spectrum Plus computer with printer, software and pocket TV and save £100. Dixons deals. We guarantee you can't buy better. Dixons high-tech deals. This amazing Yamaha shoulder keyboard is packed with exciting sounds, and it's so easy to play using this free video, music book and cassette. Another great Dixons deal. We guarantee you can't buy better.
Dixons. Dixons. Dixons.
Dixons high-tech deals. This advanced Panasonic video features a unique new digital scanner to make programming your video easier than ever, plus free films with any Dixons video. Another great Dixons deal. We guarantee you can't buy better.
At Dixons, only the best will do. The latest designs, state-of-the-art high-tech, world-famous names, and a vast range to choose from, like this JVC digital video recorder with stunning visual effects. Or this 14-inch portable Seisho teletext for under £200. Whatever you choose, you'll always get a great deal at Dixons.